First pitch is by third. Reds win. Hayes hammers it down the line. Friedel scores.
What if I told you that the unstoppable force finally met an immovable object? That a team that looked like they were legitimately never going to lose a baseball game again finally did? And what if I told you that wasn't even the wildest, most impactful story from a packed Sunday of baseball? Welcome to Baseball Extra, your home for all the action you need to know about. I'm your host, and today, we're diving deep into one of the most dramatic days of the season. We saw a historic winning streak come to a shocking end, a colossal power shift in a heated divisional race, and a feel-good event that reminded us all why we love this game. Stick around, because we're breaking down all of Sunday's biggest MLB highlights, and you won't want to miss a single detail. All right, let's start with the story that had the entire league buzzing: the Milwaukee Brewers. Coming into Sunday, they weren't just a baseball team. They were a phenomenon. They had won 14 consecutive games, a franchise record. This wasn't just a fluke. It was on the heels of an 11-game winning streak just last month. They were playing with a level of confidence that felt supernatural. Think about how they got to this point, even in this series against the Reds. On Friday, they were down 8-1 after just 2 innings and stormed all the way back to win. It was unbelievable. Then on Saturday, they were trailing heading into the ninth, tied it, and then Andrew Monasterio hits a go-ahead 3-run homer in the 11th inning. They were winning games in every conceivable way. 8 of their 14 wins during this streak were comeback victories. They felt inevitable. So, when Sunday's game went into the top of the ninth with the Brewers down by 1, was anyone really surprised when William Contreras stepped up to the plate with a runner on? Of course not. And what does he do? He crushes it a 2-run bomb to deep left center. The Brewers take the lead 3-2. In the dugout, you see the smiles, the high fives. It was happening again. Another magical, logic-defying win was seemingly in the books. It was the kind of moment that defines a team that believes it simply cannot be beaten. It was absurd, it was insane, and it was classic 2025 Milwaukee Brewers. But then, the bottom of the 10th inning happened. After the Brewers failed to add an insurance run in their half, the Reds came up with a new sense of purpose. They weren't going to be another footnote in the Brewers' historic run. They loaded the bases, bringing Austin Hayes to the plate. The infield was drawn in, the pressure was immense, and Hayes delivered. A sharp single that gets past the drawn-in infield. The Reds walk it off, winning 4-3. Just like that, the streak was over. The longest in season-winning streak in Brewers franchise history dies at 14 games. The mighty Brewers had finally been defeated. Now, let's be clear for all the Brewers fans watching Baseball Extra. The sky is not falling. This is still the team with the best record in baseball. They've won 29 of their last 34 games, an absolutely torrid pace. They are still having more fun than any other team in the league. In a way, this loss might even be a good thing. It releases the pressure that comes with maintaining a streak of that magnitude. But for one day, the Cincinnati Reds did the impossible and reminded us that in baseball, no one is invincible. And you know what? Knowing the Brewers, they're probably just going to start another 16-game streak next week. While the Brewers were dealing with their first loss in weeks, an absolutely colossal series was wrapping up in Los Angeles. This wasn't just a series. It was a battle for supremacy in the NL West. The San Diego Padres, after one of the most aggressive trade deadlines we've ever seen, had fought their way back from a massive deficit to take a 1-game lead over their hated rivals, the Dodgers. The stage was set for a 3-game showdown at Dodger Stadium. This was the Padres' chance to prove they were the new kings of the West. And then the weekend happened. It was a complete and utter disaster for San Diego. They lost a tight one on Friday, 3-2. Then on Saturday, with their ace Blake Snell on the mound, they got completely shut down in a 6-0 drubbing. Coming into Sunday, they were desperate to avoid a sweep to salvage some pride and momentum. Early on, it looked like more of the same. The Dodgers jumped out to a 4-0 lead in the very first inning. But credit to the Padres, they didn't roll over. They clawed their way back, inning by inning, eventually tying the game in the top of the 8th. The momentum had shifted. The Dodger Stadium crowd was tense. This was the moment for the Padres to finally break through. They brought in their closer, Robert Suarez, who hadn't pitched all series, to face Mookie Betts, who, believe it or not, hadn't had a single hit all series. Mookie has been having By his standards, a down year. But as we all know, a quiet Mookie Betts is still Mookie Betts. He still knows how to rise to the occasion. High fly ball to deep left field. There is no doubt about that one. Mookie Betts has his moment. His 13th homer of the season gives the Dodgers a 5-4 lead, and they would not give it back. Talk about a gut punch for the Padres. For the first time since mid-May, they were swept, and it happened at the absolute worst possible moment. The Dodgers not only retook the NL West lead, now up by 2 games, but perhaps more importantly, they got their swagger back. They reestablished that we're the big brother, and you know it dynamic over the Padres. The good news for San Diego? They get another shot at the Dodgers this upcoming weekend at home in San Diego. The bad news? After a weekend like that, maybe that's the last thing they want. This piece of baseball news has completely reshaped the landscape of the National League pennant race. All right, from the high-stakes pressure of a pennant race to an event that's all about the joy of the game. On Sunday night, the Seattle Mariners and New York Mets traveled to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, for the annual Little League Classic. And folks, this event never disappoints. It is so charming and so pure that you sometimes forget it's a real game that actually counts in the standings. What was the best part? Was it seeing superstars like Julio Rodriguez and Juan Soto just goofing around like kids themselves? Was it the broadcast kidcasters asking players if they were nervous to slide down the famous hill? Spoiler, they were. For me, it had to be the pencil bats. Seeing players like Randy Arozarena using a bat designed to look like a giant number 2 pencil is just peak baseball fun. Honestly, all bats should be pencil bats. But for all the charm, this was a critical game for 2 teams trying to make the World Series. The Mets, in particular, have been surrounded by drama lately and desperately needed a clean win. And that's exactly what they got. Mets fans can breathe a little easier after a solid 7-3 victory over the Mariners. Mark Vientos blasted a 3-run homer. Francisco Lindor was all smiles with 3 hits, and the bullpen didn't blow a single lead. Even Ryan Helsley, who has been a target for fan frustration, threw a scoreless inning. It was just good vibes all around. And even in a loss, we had a great moment for the Mariners. Catcher Cal Raleigh hit his 47th home run of the season. That puts him just 1 dinger behind Salvador Perez's all-time record for most homers by a primary catcher in a single season, set back in 2021. Happy kids, pencil bats, and a big dumper dinger. It doesn't get much better than that at the ballpark. It was a full slate of 15 games on Sunday, so let's sprint through the rest of the day's action right here on Baseball Extra. First, to Philadelphia, where perhaps the most quietly devastating news of the weekend dropped. The Phillies placed their ace, Zach Wheeler, on the injured list with a blood clot. This is a huge blow. It's entirely possible Wheeler may not return this season, which is just crushing news for a veteran team trying to win a World Series. On the bright side, Alec Bohm and Aaron Nola both returned from the IL on Sunday. Bohm looked great, homering in his second at-bat. Nola, not so much. In his first game in 3 months, he got shelled for 6 runs in just over 2 innings. The Phillies still won 11-9, but without Wheeler and with Nola struggling, that rotation is looking very, very wobbly. The New York Yankees, who were reeling, got the perfect remedy this week, games against the Twins and the Cardinals. They swept the Cards in St. Louis, capped by an 8-4 win on Sunday. A great moment as Paul Goldschmidt returned to his old ballpark and had 3 hits for the Yanks. The Boston Red Sox were 1 out away from a sweep of the Marlins, holding a 3-2 lead in the ninth. But then Dane Myers, who had an error earlier, tied it with a homer, and Jacob Marcy followed with a 2-run shot to give the Marlins a stunning 5-3 victory. To make matters worse for Boston, they announced top prospect Marcelo Mayer will have wrist surgery and miss the rest of the year. The Chicago Cubs will have to play the Brewers 5 times in the next 4 days. That's a daunting task, but hey, at least they now know the Brewers are mortal. The Cubs beat the Pirates 4-3 Sunday for their 2nd straight win, but their offense still doesn't look quite right. Big day for the Baltimore Orioles. Their number 8 overall prospect, Samuel Basallo, got called up and his first career hit was a 2-run single. Not that they needed it. The Orioles absolutely smoked the Astros 12-0. The Royals beat the White Sox 6-2. The Braves swept the Guardians 5-4 for their 5th straight win. And the Rangers salvaged a game against the Blue Jays with a 10-4 victory, thanks to a 3-hit day from Marcus Semien. And finally, How about the San Francisco Giants? They snapped a miserable 7-game losing streak where they were outscored 41-12 with a solid 7-1 win over the Rays, thanks to 7 scoreless innings from Logan Webb. That should help turn those frowns upside down, at least for a little while. And that is a wrap on a truly monumental Sunday in Major League Baseball. We saw a legendary winning streak come to a dramatic halt, a seismic shift in the NL West, and a reminder in Williamsport of the pure joy this sport can bring. The playoff pictures are getting clearer, the pressure is mounting, and every single game matters more than the last. What do you think was the biggest story of the day? Was it the Brewers finally losing? Was it Mookie Betts' clutch homer to sweep the Padres? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I read every single one. Thank you for tuning in to Baseball Extra. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to stay up to date on all the latest baseball news and MLB highlights, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button. And more importantly, click subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. It's the best way to support the channel and make sure you're always in the know. Until next time, I'm your host, and this has been Baseball Extra.